This is Business Talk, your business, your success. Sponsored by Take Action Business Coaching. The opinions expressed are those of the participants and may not be the views of the staff, advertisers, and owners of the station. Advice given is not intended to replace that of your business advisor. Now, let's get down to talking about your business, your success. This is Business Talk.
Well, good afternoon, Peggy. Happy summer.
Well, good afternoon. It's, you know what, for so many radio shows, we sit here and we talk about how cold it is, and I don't care how hot it gets anymore.
Oh, it was only 7 months this year.
I know.
Yeah.
I know it's warm, but I just absolutely love it. It's
like
okay.
You're not ready for sleet and
No,
freezing
I think
rain
it's okay.
and
It's
snow.
okay.
And my son Ben and I were talking about that this past week, and he lives in Chicago.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, my God, I have to get out there because I know it's coming. The cold's, he's already thinking about how cold it's going to get.
It is interesting how we behave.
He's getting done with the cold.
Yeah.
He's lived there for quite a few years.
Well, he gets to choose where he lives next, so maybe.
He does, yeah. So he's like, maybe I'll move a little farther south.
Yes. Same with my daughter.
But anyway, I like the change of seasons.
Yeah, me too.
But sometimes by spring, I'm like ready.
Yeah.
Oh, boy, it can be hot for a while.
Right.
So
well, welcome to our show. Pete and I are business coaches, and today what we do in all of our shows is to make sure you're walking away with ideas and strategies to execute.
Yeah.
Because it's not what you know, it's what you do with what you know.
Oh, very good. I like that. That could be on a bumper sticker.
There
it's
we
kind of
go.
long, but
yes,
we could get it on 2 bumper stickers.
It's about taking action. There we go.
Yes, it's about taking action. So a lot of times we'll talk about things that are happening with our clients. Sometimes we have a guest come in and talk to us. We do read a lot of books. So today we're going to talk about a book by a gentleman that we've seen speak 2 or 3 times. He is actually, if you've read the Robert Kiyosaki book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, he's the rich dad in that book.
Yes,
he's the person that Robert Kiyosaki was actually talking about.
Yeah, mentored and taught Robert Kiyosaki.
Right.
And
Keith Cunningham.
We've seen him a couple times. And in fact, Pete, I was saying, you know what I'm going to do is, let's shoot him an email.
Have him come on the show.
See if we can get him on the show. He's one of the most
He's a
brilliant.
great speaker.
He's great.
He's funny, too.
From Texas.
Yeah, he's a big Texas guy. And
he'll be our next person.
His book is about the road less stupid. Well, what he's talking about, he's kind of poking fun at himself.
The title is The Road.
He has done
Roadless.
some things in business that didn't work and made some mistakes. And that's sometimes how we learn the best, right?
Correct.
Yeah. So good news-wise, we always have a little good news because we want to make sure you guys know. I don't have a whole lot today, but one of the things we've got here is an article about a lot of countries around the world, including the U.S., are spending money on building ships. And building ships is extremely expensive.
I can imagine.
Contracts valued at $70 billion are up for grabs from Australia to Canada as governments update aging fleets to protect shipping lanes and their territorial waters. And these involved a couple of American companies, Lockheed Martin, Huntington, Ingalls, down south. They build a lot of ships, and then BAE in Britain and a company over in Europe. So there's pictures of these gigantic ships, 500 feet long.
So helpful to our economy is what we're saying.
Oh, yeah. This puts a lot of people to work, and it's important stuff.
That's good.
Oh, here we go. Here's finally the one ship, a frigate, which I'm not sure how big a frigate is, but it costs $950 million for a ship. Mm-hmm. A completely outfitted destroyer costs $1.8 billion.
That's good to know.
Wow.
Well, last show or a couple shows ago,
we talked about that building.
Yeah,
right?
the building down at in New York. It cost how much? How many billion?
I think it was like $1.5 billion or something like that.
$1.5 billion, whatever
it was kind of amazing.
So we
figured out how much it was per floor. It was like
another. It's good news because the economy is still thriving.
Yeah, the economy is thriving.
Okay, what else do you have?
And the other thing is we talk a lot about our cell phones, knowing where we are all the time. Well, in China, they've gone a little farther. So
of course.
This is me being thankful that I'm here, living here. Car tracking hits the road in China, and they've got a picture of these police officers in China, and they're using your identification system that are embedded in cars to track where everybody goes all the time, like everybody. Like they'll know where you are all the time.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought you were going to say is because the picture looks like they're instead of them being there and catching you speeding, they're catching you speeding with your cars.
No,
through your phones.
This
is just tracking where you are.
Yeah, it's like.
Does it say what the impact is or any of that? Like
the impact.
I mean, in other words, like so why do they care where everybody is all the time? I mean,
well, yeah, that's kind of what we would think as people who like liberty. It's like just leave us alone. It's a way to improve public security and to help ease worsening traffic congestion, but implemented in the world's biggest it's the world's biggest automotive market. That's interesting. With sales of they're selling 30 million vehicles a year over there. Now we sell maybe 16 to 17 million. So we're about half.
We're about half
the size of China in automotive. That's kind of amazing because you don't think of them driving a lot of cars.
You don't think of that at all. Well,
it's all happening in the backdrop of an authoritarian government. So they're just grabbing data. Anyway,
they're grabbing data.
We don't have to
watch
do that.
You.
That's cool.
Yeah. So yeah.
So
happy to be an American.
Yes.
Let's just do a grateful moment.
We are blessed. Yes, we are.
Grateful moment.
And this is Business Talk with Peg and Pete, and we're talking about your business, and if you're in a big company, also management leadership. How do you run your organization in a more effective way?
Right.
And so you can come home refreshed.
And what we'll do is we tape all our shows, put them on our website, takeactionbusinesscoaching.com.
Right.
Takeactionbusinesscoach.com.
And there's a 98.9 FM icon in the upper right corner you can go to, and you can see past shows by topic.
Exactly. And then each one is titled, so you understand. Now, this one we're going to title The Road Less Stupid, which I love that title. It's like Keith Cunningham.
It is funny.
And
it makes you smile.
He talks about it, like you said, it's because he's an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
He is a coach. He is a trainer, and he
owns several of his own businesses.
Right.
And runs them.
And in his book, Pete, the one thing I really like he talks about is he's like, I made a lot of stupid mistakes. He almost, I think, I'm trying to remember, did he go bankrupt or he
I don't know,
almost
but
lost
happened
everything?
To a lot of people.
He almost lost everything.
Tony Hsieh, the guy.
Yes.
He made a whole
Zappos.
bunch of money by selling another company, and then he said he lost it all.
Yeah, almost.
Like all of it.
Yeah. he's the one that started
over.
Yeah. He's the one that started. Anyway, so he's the one that started.
This one chapter that I wanted to start with is and it actually has a preface here by Warren Buffett, and this is Warren Buffett talking about his own business. He said, I insist on a lot of time spent thinking almost every day to just sit and think. This is very uncommon in American business. I read and think. So I do more reading and thinking and make less impulsive decisions than most people in business. And he's talked about this a lot in other articles or when he's been interviewed, that some of his objective is just to minimize the downside. It's not as much about hitting home runs. It's about hitting singles.
I like that.
Business singles.
Mm-hmm.
And then every day, and I've read this differently. This is his quote, but I've read about him taking an hour or so just to be by himself and think, which is really interesting. I mean, somebody that could be that busy, they have hundreds of companies. But the other thing that I think is great about their organization, Warren Buffett's organization, Charlie Munger, is that they have 23 people in their corporate headquarters. That's it.
That's it.
Yeah.
Billion and billions of dollars, 23.
So they let their managers manage.
Well, and you know what's interesting about, I read it, and it was in this book, The Road Less Stupid, about Warren Buffett, which I didn't realize, is he talks about the speed in which you make money. I'm not Warren Buffett. This is Keith Cunningham.
Okay.
And he's talking about how a lot of times as we're looking at business, we don't give ourselves enough time to truly be successful. We get impatient.
Oh, yeah. And then we change directions.
And then we change directions. Exactly. And so he was like talking about Warren Buffett. And he said, Warren Buffett, I think it was 10 years. He didn't make his first million for 10 years doing it. Like he was investing, learning. Like it took him 10 years to make 1 million.
Right.
And then the acceleration starts. And so often we stop because people get, like we said, whether it's a cash flow issue or an impatient, they stop before they're successful.
Yeah, he bought, and I don't remember the name of the railroad, he bought a very large railroad when railroads stunk. Because he knew, now they're extremely busy. Trucking companies and railroads, they're just at capacity.
Right.
All over the place. And anyway, you got to think long term.
So thinking time. Right? So thinking time is a good thing.
And that's how he starts this chapter out. But he's got some points here about being a successful business owner, and I like this first one. It says there's no such thing as a natural business owner.
I like that too. You hear that about entrepreneurs. It's you're just not natural. There is no school for.
Yeah, successful business owners and entrepreneurs are not born with an innate set of skills that produce business excellence. Great business owners, and listen up, guys, work hard, practice, study. They test themselves, they think, they make corrections, and they practice some more. So you've always got to keep learning.
Well, and Pete, I think the one thing that as Pete and I, Pete and I are business coaches. We deal with companies and executives every day.
A variety
of them. And I would say the number one, I'm going to say it from my point of view,
Okay.
the number one thing I see them not doing is thinking time and slowing down. Like
And purposeful learning.
Yeah, purposeful learning. Like
taking the time to
learn, like taking that thinking time and say, okay, I'm going to strategize, I'm going to think. It's always like, okay, no, produce.
Right.
It is American.
Well, you
culture.
have this. A lot of our business owners, they're natural hard workers. They've been brought up to work hard, and they want to get things done, and they're
Right.
always working hard. And
Yeah.
they think, well, if I just work hard, it'll be fine.
And I'll get there faster if I work harder.
And sometimes that's true. And you also have to, and that's why Warren Buffett's comment is so good, is that you do have to stop and think about what you're doing and where you're going occasionally, and then learn from others.
To learn more about today's topic, call 614-306-7922. Now, back to more business talk.
So today we are talking a little bit about business, a little bit about management, a little bit about leadership, a little bit about owning. As a person in business dealing with I guess I would say the world, we're going to have some strategies for you today. We're using as a reference guide one of our favorite speakers and authors, Keith Cunningham, and the book that he just recently wrote. And you know what? He's so neat. You know what he did is he sent it to us free. And he sent it to a whole bunch of coaches free. And just said,
because
as a
we
gift.
saw him in San Diego.
Yeah, because we saw him in
February.
Yes.
Was it February?
And he gave them to all of those attending that conference. He gave it to us.
Right.
And I thought, what brilliance.
It's smart.
Because already we've bought an additional 12 or,
And I'd forgotten the title. I opened that box up, and it says "The Road Less Stupid." I'm thinking, oh, somebody knows me.
Anyway, so we're gonna give you some excerpts from this book that you can learn from.
Yeah, and it's good stuff, and it's not written. It's not too long, overly long. It's there's some points in here. You don't have to read a ton to get to the points.
Well, and what he
very
does,
direct.
and
He's a very direct speaker as well.
Right, and what I like about his chapters are it's not linear. You can go from one chapter to another.
Yeah, you can pop in the middle of the book and read a chapter.
Because each chapter is standalone.
Right.
It's
Yep.
really good.
Yep.
So let's go back to the thinking time.
Yeah.
So right before the break, we were talking about thinking time. What else does he speak to that?
Well, another one and this is kind of related, is that running in the wrong direction enthusiastically is stupid. So now we do encourage
I like that.
our business owners to plan, and this is one of the reasons for that, is that if you have a good, clear picture of where you'd like to be a couple years from now, and then also where you'd like the business and your personal life to be in 12 months, plus you have a 90-day plan, well, at least you have a pretty good roadmap of where you're headed. Right?
Well, and it goes back to what we always say is just have a couple priorities and really focus on that and get those accomplished and then move on. And again, right before the break, Pete, we talked about how we see so many people being pulled in such direction. They're not taking the time to learn and think. They're not slowing down in order to speed up.
Right.
They're also not prioritizing. They're trying to do too much of everything.
So he says running in the wrong direction enthusiastically is stupid. It does no good to practice the wrong thing. Now, we know this from our kids in sports. Practice doesn't make perfect. Practice makes permanent. So if you practice poorly,
right,
you're going to have a problem. So, and I like this sentence. He says, to excel, we need a coach or an advisor to watch our swing, if you're playing golf or you're a baseball player, and provide candid advice about what we're doing wrong and how we can do better. And that's part of what we do.
That is exactly it. And it's funny because a lot of people don't know what coaches are. So Pete and I are coaches. And so it's interesting how much money we'll spend on our kids having the perfect basketball shot or the perfect baseball swing,
sure.
or increasing their speed on the field, or having them coach as a team. So imagine that. So your number one priority generally is to, in your business, I'm saying, is to have your team grow and have yourself grow. Why not have a coach for that? We see the coach's value everywhere else. So, because majority of the people that when Pete and I go into companies, we're their first experience coaching.
Oh, sure. Certainly.
People don't.
In a business setting.
In a business setting.
Absolutely.
In a business setting. Thank you for that.
Right. For
Yeah,
sure.
so that's what we do is we come into your company and help you and help your individuals, help managers, help them all better their swing.
You mentioned that, Peggy. Now, we do have a couple of clients that are larger firms that we're working more of our time was spent with developing the next set of leaders.
Right.
Rather than the owners. Of course, we help them. But a lot more of the man hours, the person hours, are spent on helping to make sure that the next set are ready to go when the time comes.
Right.
And it's coming.
Mm-hmm.
They know it's coming. So the next thing is he says, if you want to do better, you must get better. People don't do better because they want to do better. They do better because they get better. And you can't achieve a new outcome without learning something new and practicing what you learn, probably outside your comfort zone. So the whole point of that, to me, is we have to get uncomfortable on purpose. And it's the only way you learn. If it's uncomfortable, if it's not uncomfortable, you're really not challenging yourself enough.
And the other thing he said in there, which is what we always say, is so the first thing we ask when we sit down with you, whether you're an executive or a manager or a business owner, we say, how much do you want to make? How much do you want to grow financially? And then we say, what do you have to learn to get there? Because you have to learn before you earn.
If you've got a $5 million business and you want to get it to 50, you may have to become a different leader or manager or be better at hiring folks and managing a larger group than you are today.
So what do you have to learn before you earn? And you and I have experienced that because Pete and I, we have a firm. We have Michelle and Don and Pete and myself and Jane as our team, and we are growing and we are learning that we need to learn different aspects of our business before we earn more.
And then we go to conferences a couple times a year. We went to San Diego, and we're headed to Australia in a few weeks.
Gosh, I can't believe it. Yes.
It won't be long.
It won't be long at
That's
all.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
So, and the last point on this getting better is a commitment to mastery. So improving. It's essential. If you want to be excellent, you have to be committed to becoming a master. And that means learning and then practicing what you learned. So you've got to put it into place.
Well, and if you look back at the book, I forget the book where it came from, but it's the 10,000 hours or the 5-year. To really be good at anything, it takes 5 years. And and to be a real master,
hours, right?
10,000 hours.
That's what they say.
And then to be a master is even more than that. So I'm going to go back to the impatience that we may have with ourselves. That I always say, you know what, give yourself more of a credit and give yourself more of a break, because so often we're like, we're not where we want to be. Yeah. We're driving. Well, guess what? You're going to get there. And I was with my friends Pam and Margaret, and Pam does fitness and speaking all over on eating healthy and working out. And she said, whenever I work with my clients, I say this, and I love it. They go, I'm not good at math, for example, or I'm not good at push-ups. And then at the end of that, you just tell them, say yet.
Oh, I like that.
Isn't that neat? Yeah. So yet, I'm not good at making cold calls yet. So it's just it's a languaging and a shift and allowing yourself the opportunity to be there, the opportunity to get better.
That's good.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and Pam, one thing I learned from her is she makes a great salad, and you should have a nut, a fruit, and a cheese.
Yes, a type
in your
of
salad,
cheese. Yes.
And then chop it up real small pieces.
It was delicious.
Unbelievable.
She had
and it was different every time.
She did a pear one time, an apple one time, with a cashew one time, with a
blueberry
cheese
one time, but yeah, different nut, different fruit.
Oh, it was delicious.
It was like, what?
It was the best salad.
It's simple, right?
Best
salads.
Cow. It was amazing. Good.
So
I hope you guys
that.
learned. I have to tell you, as you're listening, do this. It's delicious.
Yeah, test that salad thing. It works.
It was delicious.
We should all eat more vegetables, right?
Yeah, it was
So this
delicious.
is Peg and Pete with Business Talk. Even though we're talking about salads, we throw some other things in there because being healthy is part of taking care of that machine of yours.
And you're the machine.
Your body, right? You're the machine.
Right, exactly.
All right, good.
Okay.
So thinking time. Another thing he mentions about
Now we're
thinking.
talking about The Road Less Stupid.
Yeah,
a book
The Road
by
Less Stupid, Keith
Cunningham.
And he is, I don't know if he's even mentioned in that Robert Kiyosaki book. That was written a long time ago.
No, I don't think he was.
But he wrote a book called Keys to the Vault, which is also a good book, quite a few years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Keith did.
Mm-hmm.
And then this is his most recent book, which we think is excellent. And it's an easy read. And Peg said you can actually just pick a chapter that sounds interesting and just go right to that chapter. You can use it right away.
Right.
Because he really, do you have something you want to cover?
I do. I have one that I really like what he says. The reason we really support him is he is Action Coach is it's a franchise that we own and we operate within and learn from. And he really supports and speaks to everything we teach.
Yeah, and
so he's very
he comes
aligned.
to a conference of ours every couple of years.
He's very
aligned. He's a wonderful
with us.
speaker.
So one of the things I like this. So he says, over the last 25 years of advising, coaching, and teaching business owners around the world, I've heard this complaint thousands of times. My biggest problem is I don't know what I don't know. And he says, this is what I say to it. Well, not knowing what you don't know might be a problem. I seriously doubt it's your biggest problem, because a far bigger problem is that you don't do what you do know.
Oh,
And I agree with that 100%.
Think about our diets, right?
Right.
We know that we should not eat as much, whatever it is, pizza, Philly cheesesteak. We know what to do.
We do.
We just don't do it.
And like, here's what he said. We tend to always be on the lookout for something new,
right,
because it's exciting and fun. Hot ideas, something new and quicker, an easier, quicker way. And he says, all things being equal, would you rather have more of something or less? Would you rather have it sooner or later? And would you rather have it easier to get or harder?
Okay.
Well, you know the answer, right?
Sure. Yeah, it's simple. Right?
Well, yes. But really, but what's happening is our biggest problems are a result of never-ending quest to find the path of least resistance instead of a commitment.
Easier. Okay.
Just as a commitment to do whatever it takes to get the desired outcome is what he's talking about.
Gotcha. So discipline, personal discipline.
It's personal discipline. And he puts this chapter, the problem is this. And so here's some questions for you to consider if you don't mind. What decisions have you been postponing in the irrational hope that the problem will somehow resolve itself?
Oh, my goodness. This happens a lot with our businesses with respect to people.
I was just thinking the same thing. When we walk in, and
like every week, we have somebody who has a problem where they haven't had a conversation with the person they need to have,
right?
Yet,
and
it's bugging them. It's driving them crazy.
So that goes back to and it's impacting everything around them.
Right.
So another question. Ready? I am aware there is one primary decision in my business that I have been avoiding, and that the decision is the thing that is holding me back.
Oh, that's really good. Right.
So what are you going to do about it?
Yeah.
So that's your
and
second.
Sometimes these decisions are things that maybe not upset you, but they disturb you a little bit, and that's a good thing, we think, because if it's challenging your comfort zone, it's probably going to mean growth for you, personal and business.
Exactly.
I'm going to open that office in another city. And holy cow, it's a big jump.
Right. There you go.
And yeah, of course it's uncomfortable.
Okay, so here's another one. I love this one because I always talk about, and we'll talk about the chapter after the break of You Get What You Tolerate.
Okay, good.
But here he's got, what am I tolerating in my business that is sabotaging my results or that is incongruent with my standards?
Oh, I like that one. Yeah. You know you got a person on your staff that doesn't hold your core values.
We just talked to a business owner, Pete and I did just yesterday about this.
Right.
And so what do? You
Do you go around it? It's the open secret sometimes in the company.
I like the open secret. Oh, that's a good one. It is the open secret. Everybody knows it.
Yeah, we don't like talking about it, but we know it's there.
And what are you doing about it? And they're waiting for you to do something about it, by the way. All eyes are on you, manager. They're like, why hasn't they done anything about that?
Well, that's one of the things that you have to remind yourself as a business owner or a leader, a partner in a business, is that all the other employees, when there is an opportunity for improvement or a problem, they're looking to you all the time. And if you tolerate it, they have to. They have no choice.
I think that would be when we return, we're going to talk about what you get, what you tolerate.
You get what you tolerate.
Yes, thank you. You get what I say it all the time. That's one of my favorite sayings. We're going to talk about that and how that impacts you and your business.
Perfect.
Could your business use some help? Call 614-306-7922 to schedule your coaching session. 614-306-7922. Now, here's more business talk.
So we're talking today about a book written by Keith Cunningham, who's written several books, and he speaks at some of our conferences occasionally. And this book is called The Road Less Stupid. And he's a very experienced business owner and executive coach, and helps people to grow their firms. And he's got several of his own enterprises running, and he's made some mistakes. So he talks about it in his books and in his speaking.
I do love it.
We're hitting some of these points, and one of the things that Peg mentioned before the break is that you get what you tolerate.
Right.
Meaning, I've got an employee who exhibits bad behavior occasionally, and I never, ever say anything to them about it.
Right. Right.
So what might happen?
So you're going to get more of it.
From that person, and what else can happen?
And it will grow.
Some other person could go, well, when they do it, they'll say, well, I guess that's fine, and then they'll start doing it.
Well,
pretty soon you got 3 people.
And then everybody's doing it because it becomes okay.
Or you lose a customer, and you go, oh, man, I really didn't want to lose a customer, but I didn't want to have the uncomfortable conversation with that employee way back when I knew it was a problem before I lost the customer. So we got to be thinking ahead.
And it's exactly that. And what's interesting is if you have tolerated it, you have to understand how to stop it. And one thing that we want to caution you is you're listening to Pete and I, we're business coaches, we know, and all of a sudden I'm not tolerating it anymore, and I'm going to go and say no more. Well, first, you're not allowed to do that because you have tolerated it.
I've let it go for 3 years, and now I'm going to explode.
Yes, you're not allowed to do that because guess what? Their behavior is a reflection that you've allowed it, so you can't be upset with them. You have to take responsibility of, Pete, I've allowed this behavior. Mm-hmm. I haven't told you that it's not okay, and I'm telling you now it's not okay.
It's been bothering me for a while, and I take ownership for the fact that I haven't talked to you about it.
Right.
And I care about you. I want you to be a great member of this team, and the reason we want to change this is this.
Right. You get what you tolerate, and you want to make sure that you don't tolerate it for even once because you're training them. What you're doing is you're training people.
Yeah, you usually don't let your 2-year-old run in the traffic even once.
And frankly, this is good
Why would you?
This is good for any relationship, period. This isn't just about business. It's your kids and what they tolerate with their friends, and it's your spouse or your significant other. What are you tolerating with them? Uh-huh. So some questions to think about is, what are you tolerating right now that you know you shouldn't? Write those down.
Oh, man, it's Saturday. If you're home, take a piece of paper or notes on your phone.
Exactly.
And write down maybe 2, not 10, but just a couple things that you know if you addressed and they went away, if those things were gone, what would the outcome in your business be?
Or your relationship.
If it's a good outcome or your relationship.
Either one. Whatever the outcome is.
What are they? Write them down. 2 or 3 of them.
So the things that you're tolerating that you know you shouldn't is in one column. And then what I'm hearing you say in the other column is we're going to say, when I change that, what I will see. Yeah.
It's okay to focus on the thing that's wrong, but what's the good thing that's going to come out of it when I fix that? And that's what we'd like to focus on.
So that's an exercise that we want you to do because we know that if you can increase your vision of what is possible, it'll encourage you to stop tolerating it.
Right. In a lot of cases, people are a collection of habits, and if you can help them minimize a bad habit or create a new good habit, you'll help them a ton. You'll help them their whole work life.
Yes, exactly.
And maybe at home as well.
Exactly.
Right.
So far, I'll just go through some of from our show today. And again, this is Peg and Pete with Business Talk. We're talking about The Road Less Stupid, a terrific book just came out from Keith Cunningham. And we've talked a little bit about thinking time. We've talked about, are you taking the time to truly learn and think within your days versus just executing? We just recently talked about what you tolerate, right?
Yeah, right.
And then we talked about, what was the other thing we talked about, Pete, right before the break? We talked about
learning.
Learning.
If you want to get better, if you want to do better results-wise, you have to work on yourself and your team.
Right.
So we talked about that.
And
that's a key thing.
I mean, that is.
You have to have a commitment to mastery.
Commitment to mastery, absolutely. Right. And so, which is definitely in one of these books, you can just, like we said, you can just pick it up and boom, read a chapter.
Right.
You don't have to feel like you have to commit to a whole lot of learning.
Well, we do want you to read maybe even a book a month.
Absolutely.
What do we say the average American reads 2 books after they graduate finish their formal education? The average citizen.
I think it's
after they finish their formal education. A couple books for their lifetime.
Mm-hmm. For their whole lifetime.
Now, if you're a business owner and you want to be a successful one, we suggest you read 1 a month.
And one of the things that Keith says is be careful, and this is what we said at last break, is the problem is sometimes you're looking for fast and easy solutions.
Oh, if I could just read this.
You have the answers, and that's what a coach does. When a coach comes in, guess what? You do have the answers, and you know what you should do.
Like,
we're going to figure out what that is.
I should sleep 7 to 8 hours a night. I should have a vegetable once in a while.
I shouldn't be in charge of direct report of 20 people.
I shouldn't drink 3 Cokes a day.
I should have a training program that keeps my people learning. I should have a better hiring system. I should have a better onboarding. Like, he calls it the chapter of the problem is. And it's because you know what to do. It's not that you don't know what you don't know. Yeah. It's that you do know, but you don't do it.
Well, the great thing about having a plan, at least quarterly plan, is that you can take all those opportunities for your time and attention and write them all down and then look at them and say, okay, what are the 3 that I and my team really need to focus on?
Mm-hmm.
And exclude everything else if you can.
I like that. I like that.
Going back to thinking time for a minute, he's got a whole chapter on thinking time about how you do it, which is kind of funny, but it's not just
let's talk about
sitting in a quiet place and looking out the window, and it could involve that, but there's a little bit of structure here to it, which I think is really good.
Let's talk about the structure.
This is before you do your thinking time, and I'm thinking about us and marketing because we're working on marketing.
Yes, that's
this
our
last
thing.
year or so, and it'll be another year or so.
It's our theme.
He says before you do it, go ahead.
I was going to say it's our theme, and just a thought, and I'm going along with the thinking time, is we encourage people to have themes, like quarterly themes. We have an annual theme, and it means it's called focus, where all of our priority is on marketing.
And 12 months goes by so fast in business. Holy cow.
It really does.
It's lightning.
So anyway.
So you've got to have a theme for a period of time. And prior to a thinking time session, I will create and write down a question, usually 1, sometimes 2, you want to think about. And it could be, why don't I have enough clients?
Right.
And then you're going to ask a second question once you get the answer to the first question. Why don't I? Well, why not? Well, how would I get clients if I did get them? Well, I might get them from referrals. I might get them from marketing. I might get them from this, that, and the other. And then you need to dig into those and go, well, why don't I get them from this area or that area? So create a small number of questions that focus on a common thread or a concern. And sometimes during the actual thinking time, you might change 1 or 2 words in the question to see if you get a different insight. Like, who's my target market? It might be, who was my target market in the past?
Right.
Has it changed?
Mm-hmm. So prior to your thinking time, you're going to strategize with a few questions that you're going to allow you to focus on during that time. So it's not just thinking about the pretty sky or the flowers out there. You're actually thinking about something specific that you've planned on.
And maybe it's a business challenge, not necessarily a problem, but a challenge that you're having or an opportunity that you haven't taken advantage of yet because you're a little concerned about opening that new office or that new division or hiring that next employee. We get into that sometimes where people know I need another person, but I'm really concerned about adding to my payroll.
Yeah. Yeah. And you know what's interesting that I like is the structure around it, because when we go in and coach with you, so you hire us as our coaches. How's that work? Well, we are talking to you generally once a week. And in that time period of about an hour, we're strategizing, thinking, and doing that.
With you.
Right. That's your thinking time.
Right.
That's why coaching. And so when we go into companies, and I'm not just saying this to toot our own horns, it's not unusual for them to double in size.
Oh, yeah.
Or at least, it was funny. I was talking to somebody and they're like, I said, how much should I grow? And I go, if you're not growing with me as a coach 20%, then we're doing something wrong. So, we immediately had to increase her fee, because we
don't even think you should be in business if you're not at least growing 10%. You should be growing at 10%. Easily.
Absolutely.
In this kind of an economy. The economy is very strong.
Well, you should. And if you have coaching, you accelerate it because of this thinking time, Pete.
Right. The other thing is if you have something that's a fairly broad question, you may need several sessions to focus on a single topic. So it might be, an hour a week for a few weeks while you're allowing your thinking time to dig into this opportunity for improvement. And he always take an hour. Just take out a complete hour. Use 3/4 of it to actually do some thinking on the challenge, the problem. And then the last 15 minutes is to document some things. Here's a couple of next steps. Here's where I need to get more information. We almost always run into this. Well, I think this is a good strategy, but in order to check it out, I need to do this, that, and the other. So get some detail on what you really need to do next.
I like
to help you create a plan.
It's very similar to a coaching session.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, basically,
it's a coaching session with yourself.
I was going to say that. Right. A coaching session with yourself. Wow. Absolutely.
Now,
I like that.
if you talk to yourself and you have a window in your office, it'll be fun for your employees.
They'll be saying, okay,
what do I think, Pete? Oh, I don't know.
Yeah. Okay, so we're going to continue with thinking time when we return.
To learn more about today's topic, call 614-306-7922. Now, back to more business talk.
So we're talking today about a book called The Road Less Stupid by Keith Cunningham, who we really like. He's a good speaker and author, and he's talking about thinking time. And at least once a week to set aside an hour just to think. And if you can do a half hour a day during the week, that is also good. And one of the things he talks about, and I mentioned this in the previous segment, is that we talk about taking an hour, but 3/4 of that should be thinking about the issue or the problem or the opportunity at hand, then evaluating, sorting things for the last 15 minutes so that you know, well, what's my next step? What could I do in the next few days while I'm gathering information to go forward on this thing? And then some of the scenarios for these questions are create a new question. That's one thing you could do.
I like
you could
that.
revisit a previous question that could use additional thought, or maybe you didn't take it to its endpoint or logical conclusion, and then use the answer from a prior thinking time session as the basis for refining and fleshing out and changing the original question. Like if you ask a big question, why don't I have more clients? That's a pretty broad question for any business.
Right.
Because you generally have multiple types of clients, and there's all kinds of ways you can get clients, right? So you may need several sessions. The other thing is that you need to turn off your phones. You need to close your doors.
Focus.
You need to eliminate distractions. If you tend to stare out the window, you might want to close the curtains. But you really do need to focus. This hour should be really productive, and have paper on hand and not the computer.
I really like that. And it's really what we do. And we see it working, and we see its success.
The last thing, it's funny here. He sets a timer on his computer. You can do it on your phone as well, but it allows you to not fidget and look at your watch. If you know you set a timer, and I do that sometimes, I'll set my phone to go off, so then you don't have to think, well, how much time do I have left? You don't need to worry about that.
You want that focus.
Just
laser
concentrate.
Focus.
Yep.
And do this every week and see what happens to your business. And as we're talking about business growth, and thinking time. Are you okay if I move on to another business growth?
Yeah, I think so. Yes.
So if you look at business growth, growth is not necessarily more. More is not necessarily better. Better is not necessarily value added. So growth is usually a result of finding a new opportunity, which means there will be something new to work on, right? And we get distracted with that sometimes, right?
Okay. Yep.
So
with the new shiny object.
So the new thing, because guess what? The new shiny object, guess what it's doing? It's absorbing all of our attention, resources, time, team, and money. So as you're looking at growth right now, because we have lots of companies growing and even into another division, hey, let's do this, let's do that.
Right.
There's some things to consider. We have seen it fail. And I'm thinking of that gentleman years ago that started up another company.
Oh, right. I know who you're talking about. And yes, God bless him. He's a great guy.
Great guy.
And he did get distracted.
He got distracted and it hurt his current business. So you have your foundation where you're getting all your money and resources. And he took his resources and financial team, started a separate company, not a division of, but a separate company.
Right.
And it didn't do well.
Right.
So...
Well, on the flip side, I'm thinking about an existing client who in the last few months, they've recognized, hey, we're growing rapidly. We need more office space. They've been patient, and now they have an opportunity to take over space right in their existing building rather than the big disruption of going to a new facility, which is huge. It can be done, but it does cost a lot of not just the money, the direct cost, but the indirect cost it's a big distraction.
Well, because here's what happens with growth. Since resources that used to be allocated for old things, which we'll call that tired and boring because I keep doing it, and now we get to fund new things. They're fun, exciting, isn't this great? The old thing usually begins to corrode, deteriorate, because it's no longer the focus and attention. And
even though the old thing could be the core of your business.
Right. That even though it was a core of your business, that is one of the things that happens. So here's some things that you want to have requirement for growth that we have experienced as coaches. So Pete and I...
Some tips if you're going to grow.
If you're going to grow, here's some tips to growing a division. Again, this is Peg and Pete with Business Talk, and we're talking about The Road Less Stupid, a Keith Cunningham phenomenal book. Just love Keith Cunningham. He says, a requirement of growth, which I believe 100%, is that the engine, the machine, and the dashboards in place is to maintain the old thing while the new thing is being created and fertilized.
Oh, this is really good.
So we need to, so we're working with a company that we're doing this. Our foundational business, we have dashboards. We have resources. And when we're starting the second one.
So you know how well it's run.
We know consistent. In other words, like the lug nuts on the old thing must be tight. It's got to be tight. It's got to be running smooth and kept tight for incremental growth. And it needs to continue to grow, not die,
right,
while you're growing
right.
this other thing. So everything requires maintenance I'm going to read from Keith. Everything requires maintenance to avoid decomposition and decay. You have to, and this is me, you have to have the systems in place in order to do that.
Right.
Are we going to make sure we're doing that? Because without the maintenance of the old, guess what happens? It goes away, and we've seen it.
Right.
So now as we're doing a second division for this other company, guess what they did? They brought in an entire different person to run it because they said, we don't...
To completely
run it.
The existing leadership will be kept apprised of what's happening and have... an indication of how it's working day to day, week to week, that kind of thing. But they're not running it.
But they're not running it because we can't let our cash cow, our thing that built everything, go away.
Right.
And that's what some people do. They say, okay, now you're going to do this. And then it starts going away.
In addition to your other job.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And so here's a bumper sticker. I like Keith Cunningham's bumper sticker. He said, most businesses die of indigestion, not starvation. Pouring gasoline into a hand crank does not produce progress. It starts fires. So he's talking about something for nothing. Seriously, that this is, he was just talking a little bit about without the maintenance of the old thing, the new incremental growth, profit, or enhanced enterprise value from adding the new thing goes to zero. So all of a sudden you're going nothing. He's like, you can't do that.
Right.
You've got to remember to do that, which we've seen. So here's some questions to ask.
Okay, good. Here we go.
Okay. When I look back at the last few years, where have we made the mistake of adding new without simultaneously protecting the old?
Okay, that's a good question.
So what lessons did I learn? And so, as Pete and I...
Or was it painful and I don't want to think about it?
Yes. And I think, Pete, as you and I have been coaching in the past, I always think of, as we've grown, because we do accelerate with our companies, and some have failed. And I've wondered about that. Did we not have that solid enough? And in one case, I know where it failed, where, it wasn't solid enough. We had the systems, we had the KPIs, we had the market.
Okay.
We didn't have the funding solid enough to grow.
Okay.
It just wasn't solid. Financially, are we solid enough to grow? Okay, here's another question. Where have I mistakenly assumed that our existing projects are self-sustaining and require little or no ongoing attention? That's a good one, because sometimes you don't know until you pull it away and you're like, right. Holy cow.
Or when was the last time you really studied your time or your key leader's time? Where is it being spent? Right. Sometimes you don't realize that, oh my gosh, I spend a third of my time on that every week. You don't realize it unless you check it once in a while. And we're not talking about all the time, but a couple times a year, it'd be good to do a time study on yourself.
Okay, and this is one of the last questions, and I like this as it relates to revenue. What assumptions have I made about the continuity of our existing revenue stream if we shift our focus to this new opportunity? Mm-hmm. And that's what happened, because it started cannibalizing it with one of our companies. Uh-huh. It started cannibalizing the revenue from the other company, and so they both went down. And so you got to be careful of that. Because when it comes time for growth, the single most important question you have to figure out the answer to is this: why our ideal target customer? This is the multitudes of who knows about us, have heard us, our message, and need what we've got, not buying from us. So, what are our ideal customers not buying from us? The answer allows you to shift your message, tweak your product, or adjust how we do what we do so that we have an opportunity to turn a prospective buyer's no to maybe into a yes.
Okay.
And that's what we're doing with the company right now. We asked that question. We said, okay.
Why aren't people buying from us?
Why aren't they buying from us, and how do we capture that? Because we've already started the engine. What can we do?
Right. Is it awareness? What is it?
Right. Is it a product offering? What is it?
Okay.
So in one of the companies that we're growing, it's a product offering. So we're going to offer another product to capture the customers that are already walking in or calling up, so to speak. So this is Peg and Pete with Business Talk, talking about today's The Road Less Stupid, Keith Cunningham. It's written really well. What we want you to do with a lot of what we've talked about today, Pete, honestly, is we've asked a lot of questions, right?
Yeah.
It's just ask one or two.
Think about your own business.
Right.
And set aside some time. Put it in your calendar. And it could be next week. It could be middle of the week. Just pick an hour and shut your door or go to the conference room and be alone for an hour. And before that, though, think about what is a question, if I had the answer to, things would improve around here.
And or you could also, listening to this radio show, Pete and I, we gave you a lot of questions to ask yourself.
Oh, right.
I mean, we really
you have
did.
Homework,
and I know
lots
you're
of homework.
probably in the car or somewhere listening to this, because most of our clients are listening in their car via Bluetooth. Or what we want you to do is maybe go back and write down some of these questions that you should ask yourself and really have some thinking time of, oh, what is it? Like, whether we talked a little bit about growth.
Right.
We talked a little bit about
what things are going on in the business that you're tolerating.
Yes, we
what
talked
are a
about
couple
that.
of those things that maybe you shouldn't tolerate anymore?
And that was a good one, absolutely.
What employees of yours need more of you?
And we talked about I like this one. It's not that you don't know what you don't know. It's that you do know what you should. I mean, it's what you do know.
You usually know what you should do.
And you're not doing it. So those are just some of the questions we asked you to think about is what is it you should be doing that you know you should be doing.
Yep.
That's where we start.
So it could be listening or reading to a book.
So,
and it could be this book, The Road Less Stupid by Keith Cunningham, or it could be another book. If you'd like our reading list, give us a call, 614-306-7922. You can email at PeteMcDowell@actioncoach.com, and we'll get your reading list.
or you can go to our website, takeactionbusinesscoaching.com. There is a thing that pops up that says your name and number, and we can get back to you immediately.
Yeah, it pops up, takes your picture, and we'll have you.
This has been Business Talk, your business, your success. Sponsored by Take Action Business Coaching. The opinions expressed were those of the participants and may not be the views of the staff, advertisers, and owners of the station. Advice given was not intended to replace that of your business advisor. For more information about the topics discussed today, call 614-306-7922. 614-306-7922. Tune in next week at this time for more Business Talk, your business, your success.